Okay, welcome to this council briefing, 5th of March 2025. First on our agenda for this meeting is we welcome Dale Ski from Election Services, and Alana Thurston will present this item in person. It's regarding the 225 local elections and elected members guidance. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. Me again. It's election year again, and it comes around quite quickly, although, you know, we may be going into a 4-year term. Who knows what's going to happen in the future. What I'm going to cover off this morning, and I'll just figure onto the next slide there, Alana, please. So I'm going to be just giving some background information, some stats and that sort of thing. Just a very quick update on the representation review, or the shortened representation review, which we undertook last year. The timetable and some changes to the timetable. I'm just putting in there, I've not done this previously, just a reminder to elected members about the electoral principles that I have to follow and the council actually have to follow. So I'm just putting that in there just as a reminder. Legislative changes which came into force last year. The order of candidate names, which is a council, can be a council decision. What is the chief executive's role in the election? So I'll touch on that as well. Elected member protocols, that's always a good one, pre-election. What can and can't do as an elected member, and some reminders for candidates.
We can ask questions of relevant.
Let's have the presentation, then we'll have the questions.
Okay, thank you.
So on to the background. Triennial election occurs every 3 years, Saturday the 11th of October. Would you go on to the next one there, Alana? Thanks. So Saturday the 11th of October, the elections for the mayor, elected at large or across the whole district, 8 councillors, there they are there, 3, 2 and 3. We're familiar with those. There is no Maori wards poll for this council, but there is a Maori constituencies poll for the Northern Regional Council. So electors in Kaipara will be voting for the Maori constituencies poll for the region. We will be using first past the post, FPP electoral system, and we have approximately between 18,500 to 19,000 electors. Looking at the growth, I think the latest figures were 18,500 as of January. So we're probably looking at up to 19,000 come September, 6% increase from 2022. So we do have growth, and we all can see it around us when we drive around what the growth is. So I'm the electoral officer for the Kaipara District Council. So on to the summary of the representation review. So council resolved in August last year to remove its Māori ward, and that was permitted under the local government electoral legislation of Māori wards and Māori constituencies Amendment Act 2024. Because of that, council was required to undertake a shortened representation review, and following that, or as part of that, council investigated a number of options. And after the preliminary public consultation, an initial proposal was agreed on the 4th of September. That being what I've just said earlier, mayor elected at large, 8 councillors, 3 from Kaiwaka Mangawhai ward, Otamatea ward has 2, and Wairoa ward 3, with no community boards. There was a slight boundary adjustment between Otamatea and Wairoa wards. So this initial proposal was publicly notified on the 10th of September, and we had 53 valid submissions that were received. And after consideration of the submissions, council resolved to adopt the initial proposal as its final proposal, which is what we have going forward for the elections this year. There's just a map there of the 3 wards. And regarding the timetable, I'll just run through this quickly. Nominations will open on Friday the 4th of July, so it's a bit earlier than previously, and I'll explain a little bit in the next slide, but they will open on Friday the 4th of July. There is a pre-election period. You're probably familiar with the 3-month pre-election period. With the election being on the 11th of October, 3 months back is Friday the 11th of July. Generally, the pre-election period coincides with the start of a nomination period. Unfortunately, when new legislation was drafted last year, bringing the timetable forward, Department of Internal Affairs omitted to correct the 3-month pre-election period. So we now have nominations open on the 4th of July, but the pre-election period starting on the 11th of October. 11th of July. So nominations open 4th of July, close at noon on Friday, the 1st of August. There is a display period for election signs, 11th of August to midnight on the 10th of October. You'll be familiar that candidates can appoint scrutineers if they wish. There is a legal timeframe for that by noon, 24 hours before the close of voting, which is noon on Friday, the 10th of October. If candidates wish to appoint scrutineers, it must be in writing to me by that time and date. With regard to results on election day, voting closes at midday. We'll have progress results about 2 o'clock on election day afternoon, and then we'll have preliminary results the following day on the Sunday, and the final results, which is everything, all the results together, including all special votes, by Friday the 17th of October. So members go out of office and new members take office the following day after the declaration. So if we declare on the 17th of October, then new members come in, old members go out on the 18th of October. And the final piece of the timetable is that good old return of election expenses and donations form, which is a legal requirement, and that's by mid-December. It has to be in. As I mentioned earlier, I just wanted to briefly touch on the electoral principles. Right down the bottom there, I say local authorities and electoral officers must take into account these principles when making their decisions. So it's something that's to the fore of what I have to do and also to the fore of what council has to do as well. So the first one is representative and substantial electoral participation. That was added in just prior to the 2022 elections, and that's a result of the Chief Executive's responsibilities under, I think, Section 42 of the Local Government Act. So one of our principles is to make sure we have representative and substantial electoral participation. The next one is fair and effective representation, reasonable and equal opportunity. So it comes to that reasonableness and equality to nominate, to accept the nomination, and of course to cast a vote. Another important one that is there is public confidence in and public understanding of the electoral processes. So public confidence is really an important thing for me as the electoral officer. The last thing I would want is the public not having confidence in the processes or the outcomes that I declare. So the legislation says that I can provide that through a regular election cycle. So that's every 3 years currently. So that's fine. Elections are managed independently, so they're not managed by a council itself. But an electoral officer still can be a council employee, but I think all elections throughout New Zealand are now managed independently. Protection of freedom of choice and secrecy of the vote. I just push that really strongly. I get quite a bit of pressure to release information that I'm not permitted to, which of course I push back on, but the secrecy of the vote is really, really important. Transparent electoral systems and voting methods. Again, everything that we do must be transparent within the law and easy to understand. Procedures that produce certainty and outcomes. So what we can't have is come election day, a delay in getting the results out. That'd be the end of my career. So I've got to make sure that on election day we can get the results out. On the following Friday we can get the declaration out and things move on from there. So on to legislative changes. So there were changes to the legislation on the 30th of July last year, and it was pretty much around the service of New Zealand Post, or the diminishing service of New Zealand Post. And what they've provided, what the legislation has changed, is a longer delivery period It was 6 days. That was the statutory period what the post had to get out. That's now been extended to 14 days simply because New Zealand Post could not guarantee delivery within the statutory time. So they've now sought and achieved a longer period. There's also a longer voting period because once votes go out, people have to have time to receive it, consider who they're going to vote for and get it back to me. So the voting period has now gone up by another 10 days. So that's quite an important thing. So your voting period is now just over 4 weeks. It was 3 weeks. So there is a longer voting period. I do qualify that because it is going to take longer for the votes to get out because of the way New Zealand Post is now structured. So to get the delivery out to electors is going to take a little bit longer. So although we have a 4-week voting period, you're probably effectively down to 3 weeks as you were before. So we started earlier on the 4th of July, and that's the legislation that changed those slight changes. Order of candidate names, an ability for local authority to determine the order of candidate names on the voting document. So we have 3 under legislation, alphabetical, pseudo-random and random. So pseudo-random basically is when nominations close, the names of the candidates go into a hat for each election. We pull them out in front of a JP randomly, and that's the order that everyone gets. And the third one is random order, and that is where every elector gets a different order. If council doesn't make a decision, so it's still optional at the moment, it does default to alphabetical. And the resolution is required by June, and I believe, Alana, it's going to the March council meeting for a resolution. Council resolved the random order for the 2022 election, so you can choose every 3 years if you wish to. As I said, if council does not make a resolution, it does automatically default to alphabetical. So on to the Chief Executive's role. There's a requirement under the Local Government Act for the Chief Executive to, and I quote this here, nice and simple, facilitate and foster representative and substantial elector participation. So that's what the Chief Executive's responsibility or role in the local elections is. And that can be achieved through a number of ways. Probably the most practical is through effective communication / education strategy. I think the outcome or the goals of this should really be to increase the number and diversity of candidates to fulfil that requirement, increase voter participation. That in itself is easier said than done. Right across the country, in fact, right across the world, voter participation is declining, but we have to be doing as much as we possibly can to increase that or even arrest any decline and maintain. Include information about the council. This is what I put in this, so this is my views. Information about the council. What does it do? The relevance to the community. And the importance of participation. So people aren't going to vote if they actually don't know what the council does. So I think it's really important that clear messages get out about, what is council, why should I bother to vote? What's the relevance of the council? There's the council's pre-election report that comes around every 3 years. It is a legal requirement. It is legally required by the 18th of July. I'm suggesting by the end of June. With nominations opening on the 4th of July, it's a requirement that potential candidates actually might want to look at that pre-election report to see whether they want to stand or not. So I'm just recommending, perhaps if possible, by the end of June. Council's election information booklet, that's that thing there. So we've got the candidate information booklet. There's the 2022 one. We're just updating that now for 2025. So that's a really good source of information, not just for potential candidates, for the public or the media as well. Just a nice snapshot of the whole electoral process in one booklet. council's communication campaign. So what is council doing in that space of getting messaging out there about that requirement to facilitate and foster representative and substantial elected participation? What's our plan? And that's really a comms discussion to try and get that out, that information out. We are placing more vote boxes in the community. So what we're finding is that with the removal, if you like, of what we call street receivers or post boxes in the community by New Zealand Post, for example, people are finding it more and more difficult to actually return their vote by post because they've been removed. So to combat that, we're having more vote boxes or ballot boxes in more facilities, council offices, obviously, the 2 council offices, but right across the country, we are looking at, well, where are people? People are in places like supermarkets, where they go. So we're trying to foster a campaign for saying, you know, you don't need to just put it into 2 locations in the district and the council offices. We will have more locations spread across the district where people are actually congregating, such as supermarkets and things like that. And that's just reinforcing the principle, as I mentioned earlier, that's now enshrined in legislation that I have to work on. So elected member protocols. I mentioned earlier, the pre-election period, 3 months before election day, 11th of July to the 11th of October. So elected members, in that 3 months, you actually are wearing 2 hats. And there are certain protocols that need to be observed. So your first hat is continue to govern and make decisions as elected members. And secondly, as candidates, you will be likely, well, if you're standing again, you'll be campaigning for re-election. So you're wearing the 2 hats. So you really need to be careful over that and clearly differentiate between what is council business and what your individual campaign is. And council should not be making any significant decisions in that pre-election period. There are a couple of exceptions, and Jason, do you want to just take those 2?
Yeah, thank you, Dale. So very mindful that there's quite a significant work program this council this financial year and this year. Obviously, I've listed 2 up there: the revenue and financing policy review after your decision last week or whenever that was to reconsult with the public. Now, that's imminently defendable because, you know, that's gone through quite a significant long process, but that will be occurring during the pre-election period. So we just be very mindful of that. The local order's done well is nationwide, of course, quite statutory. We are going to be consulting with any luck in April at the same time as the annual plan on the outcomes there. But also we have to deliver the water services delivery plan prior to September. That involves, again, council decision making to get to that point as well. So we can't avoid that. The stock standard stuff like the annual report that we continue on with, that's all obviously still continuing on. We've already signalled to you that the incoming council will need to most likely adopt the annual report, but there'll be work right up to the election, mainly for the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee in that space too, and that's normal decision making as well. Then we've got the development contributions policy. So there is quite, and then we're consulting on that also very soon, and most likely in the pre-election period too. And I haven't even mentioned the district plan review. So there is actually a lot of work that we are pushing through and a lot of consultation we have with the community as well. The district plan review, however, according to the schedule, will be finished consulting with the public just prior to the start of the financial year. And then we summarise the submissions at that point from that point on. So I don't anticipate a significant amount of future work in that space for the district plan review. However, I thought I'd mention it today as well.
Just to clarify, do we not need to summarise the submissions before we then notify them for cross submissions?
That's future process, yeah. So the summarising submission is going to take a few months. Yeah.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Dan.
So just to reiterate, business must be able to continue for the council. It just can't stop. Of course, things have to be decided, but the guidance is that anything of significance should be held off until the new council is sworn in. The council resources and technology provided to elected members, just be very, very careful and mindful of that. If you've got equipment and that sort of thing, mobile phones and email addresses and that sort of thing, it can only be used for council purposes. Do not use it for your campaign purposes. We've already had a situation where a potential candidate in another council has already printed all the flyers for letterbox deliveries, and yes, it still happens, but that person used the council issued mobile number. Big no-no, they all had to be binned, and the person had to start afresh simply because you cannot use the council number as being a council resource for campaign purposes. So examples include your mobile phones, computers. Don't use the logo. We've had that over the years. Campaigning, I'm an existing councillor, or I'm currently elected members, and they plaster the council logo. That's not a candidate to use. It belongs to the council. The website is another one, Facebook page or any social media pages. In your communications, your emails, premises, your vehicles, copiers, use of support staff, all that sort of thing. You must be able to differentiate between council business and your campaign. So please don't ask Alana or someone to photocopy 1,000 sheets off on using the council photocopier for your electioneering purpose. That's a big no-no because it's actually council resources. Council must not promote or be seen to promote the prospects of any candidate, including current members in this pre-election period. So council itself, council staff have to be really, really careful that it is a level playing field for everyone. So whether you're an elected member or not, everyone gets treated the same. And as the electoral officer, I'm very, very cognizant of my role is to treat everyone equally. Okay. So if an elected member asks for something that's not available for anyone else, I will refuse that. If it's a relevant thing, I will provide it to everyone. Right? So there's no special treatment or anything like that. And then there are some guidelines put out by Government New Zealand and Taitawara. It's built on the old Office of Auditor General guidelines, which they withdrew their support, I think, in about 2015. So the sector took that up and we have that available, which is good guidance, if you like, for elected members. And that has been reviewed by the Auditor General and Department of Internal Affairs. My last slide, just some reminders. There are some specific council-owned sites for election hoardings, and there are some specific timeframes for that, 11th of August to the 10th of October, midnight by the 10th of October. The second reminder is, and I know it's probably old hat, but all advertising material must be authorised, okay, by the candidate, or if you have an agent, that sort of thing. So you can show a contact detail, an email or a phone number. You now no longer have to put a physical address in. You used to be able to, the legislation changed for that. So you don't need to put 123 Smith Street or anything like that, but you can put your email or a phone number. Or you can use an agent if you don't want to use your own name. But please, all material, all advertising material must have this authorisation statement on it. I get so many calls over the election period about non-compliance with this, and it can be costly for the candidate concerned who has to go out and reprint or reissue with the authorisation statement on it. If you're using social media or something like that, put on the front page your authorisation statement. You don't need the authorisation statement on every post or tweet, but as long as you've got that on your home page or front page, that authorisation statement, then you're covered. I should state that I'm not the policeman on this. You guys are, the public are. And I get lots of calls from concerned people saying that this statement does not appear, and I have to take action on it because it's actually a breach of legislation. Limit to campaign expenditure, just a reminder that you don't have an open checkbook for your campaigning. There are limits that you can spend on your campaign, and that's based on what you're standing for. So the area that you're standing for, and it's based on population. So if for the mayoral election, for example, if the population is between 10 and 20,000, it's 14,000. That's it. So it is governed by legislation. We will be getting the latest population figures, I was told, in April, that we'll be basing these limits on, which will go into the handbook as a guide for what you can spend. Finally, just a reminder that what you spend includes GST. So if you're running close to the wind and you spend 13,900, for example, it must include GST. No good saying, oh, it's 13,900 plus GST, because therefore you're over the limit, which is illegal. So just bear that in mind, it does include GST. Your expenditure, even though it applies to the applicable 3-month period in legislation, which is the 11th of July, right through to the election, there is a section in the legislation that says that you must account for any expenditure before the 3-month applicable period. And that's really to get around anyone that wants to spend that big before the 3-month applicable period and then coast in and say, oh, I was in the limit in that 3-month applicable period. Actually, you're not, because you're spent up large outside of the 3-month period, which you then have to take into account with your limit. Finally, keep all receipts, please. Please don't give them to me. I'll get inundated with receipts, but they will be needed to be produced if necessary. So if we have to go on to a judicial inquiry or something like that because someone has gone over the limit, or the police get involved and they do an investigation, you will be asked to produce those receipts. So that's really it from me. Very, very high level, quick skirmish through. It's not too far away now. We're ramping up with all our processes and ready to go now. We've secured our processing centre. So things are looking quite positive.
Okay, well, so we're opening it up for some questions. Who'd like to ask a question? Councillor Naya first.
Thank you, Dale. Thank you for the presentation. And just one question. How does that sound to you? Is related to the past. So the last election, if you remember, myself and yourself and the council, we were struggling to provide special votes facility.
Yep.
And people were suffering because there was one in Dargaville and one in Mangawhai, and it's a large rural area. What we are looking to do this time better.
Okay, so for a start, we are producing a lot more special vote packs. That's the first thing. We think we produced enough in volume last time, but in some areas we didn't, and some areas they weren't distributed well enough. So we are addressing that. We also are having a special vote app. So as a backstop, we are having an ability to print on on demand. So if an office runs out for whatever reason, we can actually print on demand. That's our last resort. That's our emergency one, because it's so much easier if someone fronts in just to get their details. The app will actually get them to fill out the declaration electronically. We can see immediately what they're eligible for from their address, and we can just lean across and give them their special vote. If we actually lean across and run out, then we can print on demand. But we're not expecting to run out because we're increasing our number significantly.
Sorry, I'm just clarifying to the mayor, is that it's not about having that, it's the delivery within time to the electoral office. So if they mail it, obviously, again, the same drama, you never receive it. So special votes, ideally, they would like to deliver in a council office. So there are 2 council offices, and especially from Paparoa and Mangawhai people were, even Kaiwaka, they were struggling. They said, we have a business to run, especially the business people. How can we go to the council office and vote?
Pick one up.
The special votes, yeah.
Pick one up or to drop one off.
Drop one off.
to drop one off.
Yeah.
We're having more drop boxes spread across the district now. So we're looking at supermarkets. Ilana, can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Through the chair, so we have 5 supermarkets that we're going to put ballot bins in. So there'll be one in the Mangawhai New World, Kaiwaka Foursquare, Mongashoroto Foursquare, Rurawai Foursquare, and the Woolworth in Dartwood.
Excellent, thank you.
So I've got that's the Auckland Council one, which we're sort of mirroring. So it's actually a, dare I say, rubbish bin, a wheelie bin, but we've camouflaged it with a four-flute sleeve so that people don't think that they're posting their vote into a rubbish bin. So they will be secured by a chain in the supermarket foyer, CCTV. They'll be cleared very regularly by a courier, and the slot goes into the slot of the wheelie bin, and that this whole thing lifts off, so they can get it in, take the bag out, put another bag in, put the sleeve back in, and away we go. So they're going to be at 5.
Councillor Paniora, followed by Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, I think that one of the main issues was the first step in the process, which is getting enrolled and then getting the pack itself. So as an example, my brother went into the KDC offices and asked to vote and was told that because he wasn't enrolled that he had to send it away to Wellington, and it was going to take so many days, which would have went after the date. And then he said, well, I want to vote for my sister. And then he was given more help to enroll him. So when you say we are doing this, we are doing that, is that filtering through to all of the staff and all of the people that interact with our community to vote? Because
I would like
yeah, I mean,
Thank-
training and all of that.
to do have training, extensive training prior to nominations opening and prior to voting opening, where we train council staff on what to do, what they should be doing. If someone is not on the roll, we advise them that they should get themselves on the roll from vote.nz. That's the Electoral Commission's website. They can do that online. We would never deny anyone a special vote. Okay, so if they come in, they're not on the roll, we have said that you're not on the roll, you need to get yourself enrolled. This is the website address. It's reasonably simple. We can help you do that. Here's your vote. It will not be counted, however, if they do not do the next step of getting themselves enrolled, because you must be enrolled to vote. But as I said, we will never deny someone the right to give them the voting pack. We always check after the close of voting with the Electoral Commission, has so-and-so enrolled? If they have, their special vote is counted. If they have not enrolled, from the latest information from the Electoral Commission, we cannot accept it. We don't even open it.
So it's not similar to how you can enroll to vote on the day and vote for local government? I mean,
Parliamentary, no, different legislation.
so it's not come up to be this.
With parliamentary elections, you can vote, enrol on the day. With local elections under our Act, you must enrol by the day before, under our legislation. So if someone comes in on Saturday morning and they're not enrolled, they're not on the roll, we will still give them a vote, but we have to caution them that you had to have done that by yesterday. Yeah. Under our legislation.
Do they assist them through the online process? Like, you know how you can go online now and enrol, and
It's
there's,
pretty easy. We can do that if we've got, at a council facility, absolutely. We've got the terminals there.
Okay, Councillor Lambert, was it?
Yeah, I've got 4 here, the main clarification ones. You mentioned before about special votes, how you could post them in. Well, that's incorrect, isn't it? Because you need an officer there to do the sworn declaration, am I correct?
No, you do not. I mean, we issue special votes through the postal system. Someone rings our 0800 number, we can post one out to them. They just need a witness, okay? And the witness can be an officer or it can be another elector. As long as it's witnessed and dated, It's valid.
Yep, no, that's fine. The order,
Yes.
you say, what order are we in?
In 2022, you were random.
Yes, and what order are we in now?
That's for you to decide later this month.
Okay, because can I take it, if it is random, then because it's not going to be computer counted like the last one was with STV, but it could be manually counted because it's first past the post. With random, every person's voting paper will be different.
Correct.
Whoa. Okay, so those counting officers,
We have systems in place to cover that because probably 40 councils in New Zealand use random.
okay,
So it's not a new thing. It's quite widespread and our systems cater for
is there
that.
more errors that way or not? Okay, right. The authorisation on hoardings, they could be on the back of it, yes?
No, it's got to be visible. Yeah.
Yes, but still if it's visible?
Well, when I say visible, I mean, yes, we've had this question
I know.
over the years.
It's a terrification one.
Size font and no one can see it because it's small, or can we put it on the back? And I say, well, no, you can't, because actually you can't see it unless you sort of go hunting for it. It's a reasonable thing, you know, it's reasonableness.
Okay, and right, now it leads on to my next question.
Yeah.
What happens if somebody breaches it and continually breaches it?
So the
Realistically, nothing's going to happen, is it? Because it's going to be months and months down the line and it's.
You can still get fined.
offence under the Act,
Yes.
any offence under the Act, I must forward it on to the police.
Yes.
What the police do is outside of my control, but I must do that. And the police, I mean, for example, the non-return of your election expenses return, you sort of think, oh, what's that, mine or something like that. I forward those names onto the police and they do action it.
Oh, that's pretty easy to prove, but as far as somebody continually breaching it, there's not a lot you can do at the time, is there?
It's a matter for the police.
Whether it be other elected members pulling down other people's signs or whatever, it's not going to.
Well, I can't speak. It may be
Yeah, okay.
something. Yeah.
What are the rules around vote harvesting if you go into an old folks home and you look around every bed looking for them to vote? That can't happen.
That's coercion. You shouldn't be influencing other people on how to vote. In fact, you shouldn't be collecting other people's votes. It's quite clear in our handbook. Do not do that.
On their bed,
Okay, councillor Vincent.
invasion of privacy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a couple of questions. One is, with the extended electoral period, how much more of a challenge do you think, or will it be a problem in trying to sustain voter interest and get people involved? Because often, I think the normal pattern is that there's about a third of people cast their vote within the day or two of getting it, and another third at the end, and then there's a long period in the middle where there's just random. Is that something we should be, or I guess the organisation, in terms of trying to facilitate greater participation and so on, does that change the ball game particularly?
I think it does insofar as, even though, as I said earlier, we have just over a 4-week voting period, effectively it's not 4 weeks because it's going to take 2 weeks to get out there. So we would not be recommending any strong campaign or communication strategy probably in the next 2 weeks, because people haven't got them. And then they'll be all criticising us, saying, where is it? I'm not on, you know, it's been lost and all that sort of thing. And we would have to say, give time for it to be delivered by post. So I would probably do your main campaign or your push for engagement in this last 2 weeks.
Okay, my other question is regarding, I'm not sure if it's within your scope or not, but in terms of breaching the process, what's treating regarded?
It's an offence.
You might be shouting someone a drink or a cup of coffee.
Yeah, anything to do with food or drink or anything like that is a no-no. It is set out in the Local Electorate Act as an offence. It's set out in the handbook as an offence. Be very careful. You know, don't be seen to be, you know, buying a round of drinks or, you know, anything like that to electorates, to constituents. It's just not worth it. Just don't go there.
That was the case.
Yeah.
I'm actually quite particular currently about avoiding that.
Yeah, it's really, really important. It's,
Don't claim it as an expense.
Okay, any further questions, councillor Nair? Yeah.
Was it me? Okay. I think I forgot my question now.
Come back to you. Anyone, any other questions?
Talk us through, because we just did have this conversation, but for the record, can you just talk us through the differences that our community will see on the voting packs under the new first past the post system, given that the previous one and their, and earlier ones have been single transferable vote, so, the iterations and whatnot, how that'll differ for
So
them?
it's looking like all issues, when I say an issue, and the mayor's an issue, ward council is an issue, so all elections will be first past the post. So the order is going to be, if I got it right, the mayor, the ward, not having a poll, so not a poll, then the regional council, constituency, and then the regional council poll. Okay, so they'll all be in first past the post. A lot of councils around where they've got different electoral system, they may have STV, but all the polls have to be first past the post.
Because it's going to be a lot for our community with the poll in there and then the changes, but that will be consistent with NRC. So like, what will they see? Can you go into a bit of detail around like the actual papers, what they'll see on the papers and how?
Not too dissimilar from last time. These are all approved by the Secretary for Local Government. So we have general formats that have only just come out from the Secretary. So there's some minor tweaks to 2022. I mean, that's sort of what it's looking like. The difference will be the instructions will be in English and Te Reo. So that's a difference from last time. Just depending on how much space takes up. So we lay it out once we know nominations close, how many candidates we have. Are there elections for everything? Some like this one here, there was no election for the Coastal South General constituency for the regional council. So we know what we're up against, therefore what space we have to play around with. So for this one, it'll be instructions would probably take up the front page. Then you may have to turn over and do your mayor and then your ward councillor, then your NRC, and then the poll question for the NRC.
All on the one page?
It depends on how many candidates we have, how many elections. Of most of them, it goes into two, and A3.
If you have 5 candidates standing for 2 positions, someone ticks 3, their whole vote's invalidated.
Because we don't know which of the.
Yep, and also you can vote for just 1 rather than the 2.
Yeah, we say up to. So if there's 3 vacancies, you can vote for up to 3.
So that each vote you give has the same weight.
Yes, well, FPP it does, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the difference that I was wanting to be touched on, because before it was ranking the preferences, but if you definitely want a candidate at all costs, you would just give your 1 vote and then not give any other ones, because they might inadvertently vote another candidate and that you wouldn't have preferred to get in.
You've got to remember with STV, you get 1 vote and you rank it. So there may be 3 vacancies, but you only get 1 vote, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever you want to go to. With first past the post, there's 3 vacancies, you can have up to 3. So you can have tick, tick, tick. If you tick 4, it's invalid.
So just, if I may, on that, really, if you get a voting paper in that has, say, 2 candidates and there are 5 people up for election and they number them 1 to 5, it is clear their intention of their first 2. Very clear. Have you made a ruling, or are you waiting for a ruling to be made after the election, whether that's invalid or not?
We have guidelines set out by the sector, which are approved by the Department of Internal Affairs. We follow those guidelines so that we're all consistent right across the country. I can't remember what the guidance is. I'm pretty sure as long as their intention is clear, if they do, there's 2 vacancies and there's a 1 and a 2, we will take that one because that's the voter's intention.
Hey, we're running out of time here. So no, you've had enough. I'm just going to say thank you very much. If you have any further questions, Ash, just send them in by email to Dave. and we'll move on. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, can I just leap in just to wrap us up? Thanks, Dale, for coming up. Just with the lead member protocols, we're bringing that for noting to a future council meeting. Don't be surprised in the pre-election period, they'll be quite rigorous about that. For example, the mayor's message won't be run, all of that sort of stuff, to comply with, the OAG guidelines in that space. So I just want to signal that right now. Apologies in advance, but that's what.
Would it go so far as community events, because there are ones that he's invited to that the rest aren't invited to, so that's an opportunity for exposure that isn't fairly distributed around others that may want.
If it's a community events that we have control over, like openings and that sort of thing, yes, it will.
But if it's not where he's been invited and others.
No control about the other community. So if it's a council event.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a council event, yes, we have control over that. If it's not a council event, no. It's up.
Okay, look, we need to move on, people.
No, just, we'll be asking.
No, thank you very much, Dale.
Jason.
Bring on the transportation update.
Yeah, no.
Yeah. Or there'll be more from it.
We may as well like this like this.
Okay, thank you. We're having our transportation update now. Got Nick Bennett from our GM Service Delivery, Chris Edsel, Solidify Collaborative Services, Dion Van Ruin, Mark Taylor from Downer, and Blair King online. Thank you for coming today and presenting this item. Away you go.
Morning, Mayor and council members. Yeah, so we're reporting up to the end of January. Just starting off with the executive summary. So it's been quite a busy start to the new year. Us tackling on all the enabling works required for this year's reseal program. And that's just give you an update as of now. Currently, basically all the enabling works have been completed. So resealing is starting the 200,000 squares next week. And then obviously in January was, Mangawhai was also hit by the tornado, which resulted in a number of call-outs. Up until the end of January, we also repaired 6 slips. On the unsealed front, we have reduced the amount of work due to the dry season. On the drainage front, we continued 30 culvert ends cleared and 1,110 meters of water tailing reinstated. On the rehab front, Moya Street has started. Drainage works is in progress and we're making some good progress there. A big financial saving has also been made on the final design of Moya Street, saving to approximately $500,000. Victoria Street street rehab is still currently under investigation and still planned for May, June this year. On the seal extensions front, enabling works on Settlement Road has been completed. Progress is ongoing at Keynes Road, although there's a redesign there, and Devic and Black Swamp estimates and proposals have been submitted for approval. And a combination of all these savings with through Polycom innovation, possible savings up to $1 million for the council. Going on to the next slide for health and safety. So no major health and safety incidents were reported during January. We continue to hold our weekly hot topic toolbox talks each Monday morning at 7:15. During the month, we had 12 safety behavioral conversations and another 12 critical risk observations, 2 internal health and safety audits carried out, which were satisfactory. We had 2 minor near misses reported and findings shared with crews. Customer requests. As mentioned earlier, we had to respond to a number of call-outs due to the storm events. Positive to see that the overall trend of the RFSs has still been on a downward trend, as can be seen on the graph on the bottom right hand of the slide. And we also received a good number of feedbacks from customers across the network. The majority of these call-outs still related to unsealed roads. Next slide, sealed road maintenance. As mentioned earlier, it has been a busy month for the pre-seals and we're just about complete now. And sealing is starting next week. It's going to be a real busy month now in March and the first week in April with a 200,000 square meter sealing program. On the unsealed roads, due to the dry season, lower than normal productions have been completed. But with that being said, we completed 77 kilometers of grading, repaired 186 number of potholes, and imported 650 cubes of metal strengthening across the network. We also received some good feedback from our customers from King Road, Leonkop, Bickerstaff, and Brown Road, with the shape corrections being carried out currently. On the drainage side, business as usual, we continue clearing our culvert ends with 30 cleared during January and 1,110 meters of water tabling completed. The list of roads during the month of January included Bagnall Road, Cole Road, Tamari Road, Tarariki Spur, Gar Road, Kuramoa, Scarrett, Bubble, Shik, Sarek, and Burgess Road. Other maintenance and renewal activities. On the rehab front, Whakapira is finally complete with including the road markings. Moya Street started on the 7th and 17th of February and progressing slightly ahead of program. And then Victoria Street holding down repairs have been completed and investigation and testing is still in progress. Slips completed was Mahuda Gap, G-Links, Whakapira, Avoca North, Murray Road and Heatley Road. Slips in progress. Another one on Whakapira Road, Tango Wahine Valley Road, Murray Road, Bickerstaff, Bull Road and Acacia Road, as well as Mason Road. On the seal extensions, we completed enabling works and stabilization and sealing is planned now in March. Devic Road stabilization is also planned in March with enabling work starting now. Keynes Road, good progress has been made. However, there's been back to the drawing board with a design for this next section on Keynes Road, which is being addressed. Just on the forward works program outlook, we're on track there. Only possible ones that possibly could be impacted is the next section of Kames Road due to the redesign. Everything else, we're on track. I'm not going to go really into detail of those. If there is any questions, Chris can answer on the rehabs and renewals. But on the financial side, we're still in track. If you can look within the cash envelope, where we are with the green line there, the expenditure is going to increase dramatically over the next 2-3 months now, with the ceiling program kicking in, as well as all the other rehab works. And that is it. Any questions?
Any questions, councillor Paniwara, followed by councillor Lambert, followed by councillor Howard, followed by councillor Vincent.
Thank you. Just in regards to the one that you didn't go into further detail, and I noticed that the Victoria Street rehabilitations is to be confirmed. Do you have any inkling as to when the timeframes might be for that, even though you're just obviously waiting on designs and testing?
So the design's just being finalised at the moment with Becca. We expect to have that within the next sort of 2 weeks, and then we'll start planning for the physical works. But the whole idea is that that road will be done before the end of the financial year. So
June 25.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, to be honest, we wanted to actually done a lot before then, but at this stage we're just waiting on some.
Good though. So 3 months, eh? Cool.
Councillor Lambert.
Following right on from that, which part of Victoria Street is it?
So it's the end that meets the state highway just before, you know, where you turn off from the state highway.
State Highway 12 at the.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. No, at this end, I'll say.
Coming in from
Up the bridge.
Hobson's Choice Motellus.
Yeah, yep.
There's nothing at the warehouse rise and the countdown rise with all that.
Not at this stage. No, hasn't been. No.
I see one particular firm is mainly doing all these slip repairs, but is there any work that has been approved in principle? The costings are all in, but it's still waiting to go ahead. I'm getting feedback that their contract is ready to go. It's been approved in principle, but there appears to be a hold up there somewhere. Is that the case or not?
Oh, not that I'm aware of from the definitely not from a rehab point of view. The only one that at this stage from a renewals point of view that's outstanding is the last section on Kames Road, and that's really we're just doing redesign at the moment with WSP, the Concrete Hill section. That's the only one that's holding any of that side of things up. Slip sides I'd have to defer to Blair because the slips aren't being managed by Downer as such; they're being managed externally. So I'd have to leave.
My concern is we've got the 92% subsidy, and if there's work being held up and there's contractors ready to go, we need to lay into it. I'm impressed with how much work is getting done around the place. It's been great, but yeah, that's not going to last at that figure for very long.
Yeah, no, I'll let Blair answer that one. We just, to be honest, we just haven't had any involvement in that part of it.
Through you, Mayor Craig, if you want me to answer that.
Sure, thank you.
So yes, Councillor Lambeth is correct. There are a number of projects that have been priced where contractors some of that revolves around staff talking to NZTA on transferring what was supposedly completed phase 2 sites into phase 3. Phase 2, phase 3 was a sort of misnomer. There is a number of sites, as we've pointed out in the past, that whether it's Wakapira Road or Bickerstaff Road or Hotu Road or Potu Road, there are significant slips on those that are eating into the lanes or taking it down to a single lane section or removing a lane. The pricing is there. The proposal that I've been chatting with Tim this morning and Kurt last week is I'm actually just going to put together some simple contracts there that council will load on the sort of, that's called GETS, Government Electronic Tender Service, to basically, as NZTA are saying, or the understanding I have, Kurt is advising NZTA have an approved procurement plan from council going back before we were engaged, saying the panel on Mangawhai is the solution. My opinion, that panel is not moving very fast, and they've also made the works that are predominantly retreats as high complexity, where what we're trying to do is say most of these retreats, if we look at a place like Hotu Road, it'll actually be one of the local quarry operators who is expected to be the lowest cost because their gear is adjacent to two of the sites. So there's a plan to address that backlog that Councillor Lambeth is talking about or is aware of, and it's to ensure that we can progress at pace with these. And thanks also to the work Tim and others are doing on this, Tim, Kurt and Nick, to basically help us get a pathway through that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Naya.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Blair, and thank you, Dean. Mentioned about the Gabriel-related work, the 5 slips you have completed, and there's a list of slips in progress. I'm not sure whether they are Gabriel-related. They are Pakapara or Tangaway. But I remember Golden Stairs and all.
Yes.
Is there something being done on that yet, or?
Golden Stairs is one of the high complexity sites that WSP are designing, and to cut the time down, we've actually pre-ordered the poles to enable that construction. It doesn't matter which contractor does the work. We've decided the lead time on the poles is critical, so we're ordering poles for that and Colville Road, which is another high complexity site, so that when we get pricing back, we can exclude poles from or pole supply from that.
So in saying that, I understand the focus is on road day which came and all, and you mentioned that Victoria is March, but nothing has been. It mentions that you have started holding repairs have been completed. I did not see anything happen.
Just temporary holding repairs, as Chris stated, the design is underway.
Yeah, we didn't want to spend a whole lot of money in there, waste and rip up, and when we do the renewals, so just some minor levelling has been done on some of those big heaved areas you would have seen down by the traffic islands, I think they are.
When the rehab is happening?
In March.
In March?
March, April.
March.
Yeah, towards the end of March, April, I would say, by the time we get the design.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Councillor Vincent.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I want to say thank you for the work you are doing. I'm really pleased, and I do make your praises known where I travel far and wide. And you do things that I can understand, which is like how best to get the water away from the road. We're having drought conditions at present because for road building, you need water for compaction. And I'm just wondering how you're getting on with sourcing your water for that purpose, because I know in other years we've had dry years, the A contractor, who's I think on your list, got into a bit of strife with the neighbours for basically draining the stream that ran past their property. So is that an issue for you currently?
Mark, you can answer.
We've got one of our contractors, he's got a bore.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Paniora, followed by Councillor Williams.
Sorry, I have 2 questions. The first one is I can't make heads or tails on here of the year-to-date budget against the spend. So how are you tracking with finances? Are you on target?
Yep. So total to date to the end of January, we're sitting at approximately 7.67 million. And as I said, there's going to be quite a dramatic monthly increase now with 200,000 square meters of reseals kicking in and the rehabs. So
what was the budget? So that's
the budget is just over 16 million.
Also half?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So the next question that I have is what, and this is probably one for Blair, is what are the pros and cons, I guess, advantages and disadvantages of what you were seeing previously with our coalition agreement with the other councils versus now? Yeah, I mean, can you answer that on the spot or not? Just
Through
wrap-
his worship, if I can sort of do a very quick summary. The biggest advantage of what you are seeing there in terms of spend and transparency is what they term that integrated delivery team. So the work that between sort of Chris Edsall, myself, Dion, and that interfacing with your council team, which is the Daniel, the Kurt, the Nicks, and your finance team, Susie, shout out to Susie and Sue Davidson. There's a massive improvement in transparency on the cost and forecast cost to complete. There's a massive improvement, particularly what you're seeing around these rehabs and renewals that Chris is leading, and then the pricing we're getting in for these slips. When we're talking to the local contractors, an example being what I mentioned, the pole supply, they are really keen to see council successful. So it's not about who's making the most money, it's around what could supplier A do to help us get through this work, and that's what we're starting to see. You use Cairns Road as an example. There's been 2-3 different contractors on there, but they're actually, even though there's sometimes a little bit of we should be doing this or we shouldn't, they're actually working in partnership to make this project get through and enable, for example, the unsubsidised seal extension, which is a really tight program, to look successful.
Oh, awesome.
Thank you. Councillor Williams?
Thank you. Yeah, look, I've been getting positive comments from ratepayers around the district as well, so thank you for the work you're doing. I just wanted to follow up on a question that I'd asked last time that I haven't had an answer to. And it's just regarding the vegetation maintenance on State Highway 1 Kaiwaka, especially from 1916 upwards. It's an area that's been cleared last year by the residents. And I just want to know that it is actually on that vegetation maintenance program, and that it is programmed in, and how often it will get looked at.
Yeah.
It is a concern for the community, and it has been kind of going on for quite a while.
You want to answer that, Kurt? Because I guess anything on we're not allowed to touch, so we just can't do any work on there at all. So anything on the state highway is run through NZTA and Bolton Hogan as their maintenance contractor. So I need some discussion.
Yeah, we did have that come to us, that obviously it is NZTA, but my understanding was that they would do the traffic management, but our contractors would do, it's a particular Gristlinia hedge that has been put there, you know, by the developer, and it was as a sound barrier, and it gets very unkempt. At the moment, it's been cut right back, but I think we just need clarification on who's responsible.
What's the number again?
The hedge starts at 1916 State Highway 1 Kaiwaka.
Done. All right. Well, Chris and I will deal with that. Thanks.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, councillor Larson?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. You talked earlier about the slip work. Do we have that all programmed and good to go so that we won't lose any of the subsidy by the end of June, or where are we at with that?
As you may have picked up, yeah, there is some tension to deliver this, which means we need, in a way, we're not seeing, it would move faster if, as we get pricing, and we're moving straight into construction, because we are trying to overlap. I mean, this is a project, using the old expression, we're trying to crash. Why I suggested the pathway that's being proposed by me through here, after discussion with Kurt and Tim, etc., is we will, that NZTA want open tendering, not closed. So what we're doing is we will put a number of these projects that we already got prices. We're just going to say, righto, here we go back and reprice, but through an open system. It's not going to change the result, but it's going to ensure that we get the subsidy. And in the meantime, with that pricing, we can then demonstrate why we need to fix these phase 2 within the phase 3. In other words, recategorise, which is an internal issue, not an NZTA issue.
So are all of the ones that were phase two, are we going to pick up all of the subsidy for them or not?
That's the goal. Yes, you have a number of phase two sites that were not completed in the phase two that are actually by default phase three, given their expense to fix and complete. In other words, they require a geotech design. So we have tasked WSP. WSP have completed the designs. We have effectively, out of the 50 odd that I need WSP designs for, we have 50 odd or getting up close to 40 odd now. We take those designs, we price where possible through using the combination of Downer and the local suppliers, if it can go through the maintenance contract. But a number of these sites, we're finding the pricing is coming back outside what Downers could reasonably do through the local suppliers or the maintenance contract. And those are the ones that NZTA want an open tender process, even though we've already got 3-4 prices on those sites. So what I'm doing is saying, all right, take that as NZTA's decision. How do I create a simple contract which Kurt has supplied me? We will amend that to put these projects in, put them out, and just crash these, because the suppliers there have already priced them, they've already seen the schedule. All it is doing is that now council's putting them on get, as opposed to where we ask these people for direct pricing.
And so what's the story with this panel? Is it useful to us, or are we better off just to have our integrated team pushing things and getting them happening faster?
So the panel, in my view, and I can't disparage the panel, I'm just saying that the reality is one of the key projects that was up was called Cove Road. So Cove Road was designed by Becca pre our engagement in October. The panel still is yet, Cove Road is still yet to be built. It's a bit like looking at Mangawhai 750, which is known as Mangawhai Tomarata, or the power pole. It's taking a long time to get those things through. So the panel, in my view, is actually not the silver bullet, because the level of design and litigation they want to put on the designer means that the designers slow down and you spend significantly more, to the old expression, cover someone's liability before it then goes to a contractor, and the contractor prices in a risk as well, and these jobs slow right down. The work we're seeing when we go to this integrated delivery model is that we accept a shared risk between council, myself, the likes of whether it's Downer or OS Group or any of the others, ACL, it doesn't matter who. We are saying we will give you a design that is suitable for you to price and a schedule of quantities, but we're not going to sit there and go through the nth degree of redesigning everything so there is no risk left in it, because that is where you are spending thick end of 100,000 of consultants' time per design. Case in point, Golden Stairs Road that was raised by one of the councillors just earlier. The work by WSP is $35,000. The work previously by another consultant to put it into a contract form that would then be starting was over or close on 100,000. So I'd rather use that $65,000 difference into construction, not into, even though I am a consultant, not into belt and bracing a design around that, if that makes sense.
So is there anything that we can do as an elected member group to influence how things are happening so that we get better efficiencies and so that we ensure that we pick up all of the subsidy by the end of June?
It's probably the most logical is supporting that. Council will put out simplified contract documents on GETS and accepting if the panel on Whangarei wants to price, that's great, but we are not relying on the panel on Whangarei as our delivery mechanism. We're relying on what we're already finding. A number of these local suppliers, I'll call them local, did not put their names forward on that panel because the panel put a number of preconditions on there in terms of what works they could be considered for. So in an example, a contractor like Aaron Pascoe up Hotu Road did not put their name forward to that panel. Yet Aaron Pascoe, price-wise, would, exceptionally confident on this one, would put in a price significantly below what the panel could do. And then we've tested that, because when we went out and asked pricing from contractors, some of which are on the panel and some of which are not, every price that we've had so far, it's generally been lower than what the panel members have been able to come back with.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Your Worship, just a couple of little things I'd like to ask, one relating to what Councillor Williams has asked. On that Kaiwaka Eastern State Highway 1 footpath, it's actually, if you go to find the right area, you've got an address that Councillor Williams has given, but if you actually go from Settlement Road down the hill, you'll find there is another area where a whole lot of succulents and stuff are spilling over onto the footpath, and the issue is that the footpath will be lucky to be about 700 mils wide. So on a very, very busy road, logging trucks at an intensity, and all sorts of trucks at an intensity that was never contemplated when that footpath was built, it is very dangerous, and kids walk down there to go to school. So we do need to get that sorted out, and we need to have a program in place so that a squeaky wheel isn't the ratepayers lobbying the elected members every time it needs fixing. We need a program put in place. The other thing that keeps coming up is, and there may be something in place that I haven't heard, is we've for the first time become sort of a bit urbanized in terms of our amenity, and we've got all these little plantings with grasses and stuff and rushes that Mangawhai Central put in all through Molesworth Drive, and I think we might have taken over maintenance all of that. What I'd like to hear, and you might not be able to answer it now, how is that being dealt with so the place looks tidy as we go forward? And I don't know who that question is to. It might be nobody that's here, because it might be a different department. But
okay, so thank you, Deputy Vincent. Molesworth Drive,
and that includes these traffic islands in Mangawhai Village as well. So kind of being just dealt with. Thank you.
Okay, time's slipping by. Look, thank you for that presentation. I just want to convey how encouraging it is to see the complaints drop. I get probably 1 or 2 a week, of people directly asking the mayor to deal with a situation, and I've been throwing them at Blair to deal with, and I've seen some of his responses, which are quite lengthy, to some of these ratepayers. I've got one up here now, and there's a bullet point where he says the road is in its unsealed state, it still has a high limestone content, and while limestone is a slightly wet state, it is excellent at binding materials such as hot oil mix. Once fully dry, the road surface quickly unravels. So, that's the issue that some of these ratepayers don't realise. You've got an existing matrix in your road that, you can keep working it forever and wetting it, making it look good, but it's because of what it is in that material, it deteriorates quite quick. So that's a problem we have going forward, isn't it? And I understand you've been practicing trialling some materials. Is that correct?
So we've been putting, going back to traditionally what we used to do in the North World, HML road, which is a heavy lime and metal mix. So bases of like Tara Road and Brown Road, you've had page green on it, which is a good binding agent, and there's significant amount of blue material on the side of those roads. So we've imported some lime rock, it's quite a strong rock, which is just on the other side of the hill, which is in Tihana, and imported that onto those roads. Brought all the page green up, brought it all back in, mixed all the material up and bound it all back together. So those roads now, we're doing testing and cleaning on some of those, like Tara Road and Brown, which is currently done. We're getting 60s, high 60s to 90s on the clean.
Do you expect a longer lasting surface?
A longer lasting surface and a good shape in those roads now.
So that comes back to Mike Howard's got familiar saying, do it once, do it right, so.
Correct.
That's marvellous that you're working with those materials to try and improve the services long term. Thank you. All right, we'll wrap that up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors.
Okay, next on our list is land transport rules setting of speed limits. Welcome, Kurt. Thank you. And Vishali. What's going on?
Both, the floor is yours.
Here we go. Well, thank you, everybody. Morning. Vishali here with me. She's our traffic safety engineer and she's the expert on this. So if you've got any real technical questions, Vishali is the one who's going to be doing the answering of those. Just in summary, it's a briefing paper. We will be bringing a decision paper to council because we do require a decision. So in summary, government's brought in a new rule which effectively requires council to review any speed limits that it set since December 2019. And there's rules and guidance in there about whether it's compulsory reversal of those and or some of them there is some discretion about whether they need to be reversed or not. And they've also brought in new rules about going ahead in the future if you do want to do consider a review of a speed limit. They've redefined the process for doing that. It's quite a lot more extensive, I guess, and requires benefit cost analysis, etc., etc. But that's a separate discussion to have in the future if we're looking to review any speed limits. So in terms of the impact on Kaipara District Council with regard to the current requirement to review speed limits, so a couple of key areas. One of them says that if you have implemented a speed limit for 30 kilometres per hour, and one of the reasons that there was a school in that area road, then that must be reversed. And the reason for that is one of the other requirements is that it's compulsory now to have, for councils to have, wherever they have a school in there, we have to have a school speed zone, which is effectively reduced speed during school opening times, so opening and closing times. So we're required to do that. So on that ground, we are going around and we're reviewing all the sites to see where we comply with that or not. And we'll be developing a program.
Ask a question quickly there. Kurt, are you saying that that's a moving speed rate according to whether the school's open or it's a permanent speed limit?
It's a transitional speed limit, a limited, where you're going, like you go up past the Mangawhai school, lights flash and it tells you that it's now 30k zone. It's only at set times.
Okay, that's what I got.
Outside of that, it defaults back to whatever the 50k speed limit or whatever it is. So that's now a requirement. We have to have those outside of schools. So Vishali and the team will be going around and looking at all our school sites and just developing a program of where we need to go and put these variable speed signs in, so systems in there. And we'll do a cost estimate of that and we'll bring that to council for a decision. NZTA has signalled that there will be some subsidy available for that, but council, of course, will have to fund its local share.
How many setups are we going to have? How many of these zones are we going to have now?
Well, this is what we have to go around and confirm still. So we're busy doing that at the moment and we'll bring that amended program to council for a decision.
Other kindergartens and daycare centres and stuff as well, or just schools?
It's just a school. There's not any progress.
Targetable would be most cost effective if you just do it in one block because all of our schools are situated in one block as opposed to doing 5 zones and 10 school zones, stop goes.
So the chair, we've got some limits as to how long we can implement the variable speed.
Yeah, because there's 5 schools within proximity to one another, so you'd probably be with those without in the Dargaville area anyway.
Possibility, so the requirement for category 1 schools is 300 meters. So
Yeah, that would definitely be within that, because they're all.
Yes, so through the chair, if they're within those defined limits and all that, then we can look to grouping those.
They can definitely group.
Yeah, this-
Maybe bar one school wouldn't be grouped, but the rest of them would definitely be grouped.
Yeah, we'll consider that in terms of the review. So, and they only have to be implemented by 1 July 26.
that's correct.
So we'll go around, develop a program. Yeah, we bring that to council for a decision on the budget, and then we've got until 1 July 26 to implement those changes. So that's the one key, I guess, effect of this rule change on KDC's rules.
If I hear you correctly, it's been subsidised by central government, these signs.
So through the chair, we've got to apply for subsidy. So they have given us a heads up that they are willing to subsidize if we provide a cost estimate.
What's the percentage?
62,
A
normal.
normal far rate, Holden.
Yep. So they've indicated the subsidy available. Process to go through to apply for that. At this stage, all indications are that we will get that
So
additional.
we're going to be looking up to 40 of these signs, aren't we?
That's why we need to make sure we
Wow.
want 300 metres. We can work with you for, Dargaville.
Through the chair, yes, of course. We've got a couple of signs already in place. So if they're like the latest technology, we've got an indication that all we've got to just change a switch to update the speed limit signs. And we do not have to install a new electronic variable signs. And with the new rule, they have provided an indication that we can install static variable signs as well, but then again, it's not known to be effective. And we cannot use it outside of the school timings if there are any functions that were to happen in case. Therefore, we analyze all those situations and we'll bring in another paper specific to school speed limits.
To the chair, just one question. So we did, I think, an extensive study on speed limit when we were looking to reduce it, which we didn't go through. Would you be taking the benefit of that document rather than going again to each school and trying to find it? Because all that work has been done, where the schools, when we are looking to reduce the speed, now we are reversing or not reversing, whatever we are doing.
It wasn't specific to schools, Ash, that was highways. It was a different thing.
Yeah, but would you have some data already or not?
So the chair, we can currently use that data, but that's for a whole catchment, whereas we cannot do that right now. Right now, we've got a Schedule 3 in the new speed limits, and they've got a range that we've got to comply with. So the speed limits that was proposed previously may not comply with the new speed ranges that they have specified. So that's a whole new process, and I don't think NCPA have given us any indication as to whether they'll fund new speed limits that we're going to be enforcing other than outside of schools and reversals.
Yeah, all right. So the second category that will have an impact on council is the legislation that says that we have to look at what they define, and there's quite clear guidance on that, an urban connector and inter-regional connector, where the speed limit changed since from January 2020. And the one affected road in the Kaipara district is Molesworth Drive. So that's between Old Waipu Road and Estuary Drive. It used to have a speed limit 80 kilometres per hour. We introduced a current speed limit of 50 kilometres per hour. So the rules say that we have to reverse that. However, there are some exceptions to that. And effectively, what they're saying is that if since you implemented that change, a significant change in the land use adjacent to that section of road, for example, they say new residential, etc., then at council's discretion, we can elect to retain the current speed limit, which is 50. So for that section of Molesworth Drive, so that's from Old Waipu through to Estuary Road, since we've introduced that reduced speed limit, of course, we've got the development of Mangawhai Central, which is quite significant within that zone, and we've also constructed the Mangawhai Shared Path, so there's quite a lot of more pedestrian cycle use adjacent to that road. And so we believe that that's sufficient reason that, and the recommendation would be to, or our recommendation at this stage is to retain the current speed limit, but just to be clear, we have to bring that to council. It is a council decision, so it'd be good to get some feedback on that at this stage.
Thank you, councillor Williams.
Okay, just for clarity on, the Molesworth Drive, so this is only for that section that you're looking at, the, either reversing or not. It's not for the rest of Molesworth, which is actually currently 50.
Correct, because we
A lot.
didn't change that speed limit at that time. It was always 50 from the Estuary Drive up anyway. So correct, it's only from Old Waipu Road, effectively just before Estuary Drive. It used to be 80 kilometres per hour.
So you think that it would make more sense just to keep it all 50 rather than having a section that could potentially, I know we've got to make that decision, but the whole road is actually 50 kilometres. The full length of Molesworth.
So, yeah,
Through the chair, that is our recommendation at this stage to retain it. Again, that's only because there's a specific rule that states that we can retain if there's significant development. If not, then we would definitely have to reverse it back to what it was before. But given the Mangawhai Central is still an ongoing development and it's approximately 850 lots and we've got some commercial units coming into place. And since then we've got the Mangawhai Share Park as well. Therefore, that's why we are recommending that we retain it as effect 50, but then again, we'll bring the decision paper by the end of March to council.
Okay.
Councillor Lambert.
So if you could just take it through me, if you could just confirm from 90 Molesworth Drive, have we coming back into Mangawhai Central? Are there any of the, what I call it, raised islands, sleeping policemen there, those things raised?
by the tabletops.
Yeah, I don't know what the terminology is nowadays.
Up to the chair, no, they're no.
Okay, so we're out of that. They're still in the 50k zone.
The old 50k, which is not in the.
We have the two roundabouts there, which you'd have to be a master to go above 50k to get around them anyway. Are you going to do the calculation on what would be the possible seconds of difference in travel between a 50 and an 80? It must be only about 20 seconds difference, is it?
Through the chair, I mean, we can do a theoretical assessment on that.
Yeah, but in reality, it's, yeah. Yeah.
It's quite.
Okay, carry on.
Right, so those are the two, I guess, effects of that change in the rule that we have to consider. The one we have to do about the schools, and we'll bring a paper back to you regarding costs. The only real decision we'll need now, because this decision needs to be made and implemented by the end of.
By July 2025, before
Yeah,
July
so
2025.
whatever the decision is, if there is going to be a change, we have to have that implemented by July this year. So we'll bring to the next council meeting, we'll bring a decision paper regarding that section of July.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much.
Just to wrap it up, Mr Mayor, what I would say, I know there's just, you can go to the next slide too, both if you want. What I would say is, be thankful you're not the Auckland Council, because they got significant costs to do the reversals, paid over $8 million.
Yeah, look, it's here, we're fortunate the council, when we're going through that previous program of looking at catchment by catchment, this council made a decision to put a halt to that West Coast catchment. Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, breaking lunch.
Yes, we are, Mr Mayor, so we've got 15.
Okay, we're going to break for lunch. It's 11:51 now. Welcome back. We'll reconvene this briefing workshop. 5th of March. Item 4 on my agenda here is dangerous, affected and insanitary buildings policy review. Findings report from Mike Webster and Catherine O'Water. Thank you.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll take it as read that my report's been put for you and you've had a chance to have a look at it. Essentially, I'm providing you with the findings report, the research that's underpinning moving forward on the review of this piece of policy. The policy itself is reasonably straightforward and the issues identified are reasonably limited. Full disclosure, none of the pictures are pictures in the Kaipara district. But I have this policy because we are required to, but to safeguard our community's welfare in the event of there being a dangerous or unsanitary building or a building affected by a dangerous building. It provides for a management process around heritage buildings when they're involved and, as I said before, meets the requirements of the Act. So we must have one of these policies in place. So we are required to review this every 5 years, again, by statute, and the last review was completed in February of 2021. So we're just heading towards having that filled. And we are required, again, by statute, to use the special consultative procedure set out in the Local Government Act. Okay, so summary of findings. MB have had a look at our building control systems, and in part of that, they looked at the DAB policy and essentially came up with a range of recommendations. And these are set out in summary form in the covering report for ease of reference. Essentially, they're just about creating a better set of references to the statute so that somebody looking at our policy can see very readily what the appropriate section of the Act is. In addition to those recommendations, we identified one further piece of legislation that we could reference just to make sure that it was clear what the legislative basis of a piece of the policy was. And finally, the policy just needs to be updated to the current format. So there's nothing that's too dramatic for me to highlight to elected members in there. Just giving you a sense of timeframes, although this may alter somewhat, just depending on whether or not you're happy with the approach to work on the options report. That is the timeline, looking at finalising a consultation document for you sometime around the May-June period, going to public consultation, and then late in the year might be a matter for the new council, bringing the council back policy back for adoption, provided you're happy with the content. That'll do from me. Are there any questions?
Yeah, are they the ones that you issued, that were issued by KDC, were they, say, can that include the septic tank rather than the building, for example?
Sorry, could that include?
Septic tank, could that be the septic tank system rather than the building? Is there a distinction sometimes between what you're actually condemning, or?
Through the chair, insanitary buildings are likely to be related to malfunctioning of drainage in some way, but for conclusive answers to that, I'd probably refer that to my colleague from the building team.
Just so you can hear you.
Yes, you're correct, Mike. Sorry, through the chair. Mike is correct. Something like Cyclone Gabrielle, where wastewater systems would be impacted, would in fact result in an insanitary building notice being issued.
So that leads to the next question. Sometimes they can be rectified. Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a condemn the building stuff.
No.
Through the chair. Just a quick question. Have you identified a few dangerous buildings in Kaipara yet?
There've been 6 notices issued under the policy since it was instituted in February 2021. I think it's 4, no, it's 2 that are dangerous applying to the same building. Yes. Yeah.
And we have taken action, we have demolished them, or what we have done with them?
I'd have to pass that.
Through the chair, doesn't necessarily mean that the building has to be demolished. It's just saying that a part or all of the building is considered dangerous where public safety is at risk. I think there may have been some commentary at a previous meeting where the soffites in some of the shops in Victoria Street and Dargaville could have been perceived as being dangerous. They're not, they're only cosmetic.
Okay.
But they're not structurally unstable to the point that public safety is at risk.
Okay,
So,
thank
yeah.
you.
Okay, did you have a question? Yes, Emmett.
6 notices and it's not a full-time job. So do you police by complaint with this? You wait for a complaint from the public, or do you have some of your building crew actively going around there and looking at stuff?
It is not a proactively, through the chair, sorry, it is not a proactively applied policy. This is done passively. It waits for either a referral from a member of the public but if an officer was to see something that in the course of their duties that was deemed dangerous, then the expectation is that they would take action.
Right. Any further questions? No, thank you. Right, you can stand down. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Fees and charges. Joy Hewlett will present this item in person. Welcome.
So I take the report as being read. I'm bringing to you the annual review undertaken by the activity managers of the fees and charges. Am I driving this? On your moment, you're getting tabled another copy of the revenue and finance policy. On the report, it just sliced off the public percentage, so I just wanted you to see the whole policy there. And okay, so the activity managers reviewed the fees and charges, recommended a CPI increase of 2.2%. So some fees were increased by that. Some fees are set by statute, so obviously they haven't moved. And some fees are new, so I've put that in the report to you. Changes highlighted in red text. And have you got any questions?
Take a second to have a good look at that.
I have a question, semi-relating to food safety, annual fee $66.13. So I understand from some of the festivals and events that we've had in the district that very minor one-day holders have been now being pinged with having to fill in all this paperwork and pay these, and it's why have we gotten ourselves into this situation? This is the proposed fee for a year. So why are they being charged for 1 day's? Like, why are they even being grouped into this and they weren't previously?
Yep, through the chair, if they registered with the council as a food premise, either trading under a food control plan or a national program 1, 2 or 3, then MPI has introduced this levy effective 1st of July 2025 to every food business in New Zealand.
So that's fine. My issue is, why are we forcing them into that system? So what you firstly said, if they are registered as a food vendor, that's fine, but why a one-day festival? Because I'm not going to go on to why this disadvantages community events, but why are we forcing them into these processes if they're on our reserves and things, Salm Park being the prime example?
Okay, I'll ask Fern, our Environmental Health Officer, to respond to that.
Hi. So just to explain that, so basically, we have national legislation that covers food safety, so it's not governed, it's slightly governed at council level. But so with national legislation, if someone was going to have a one-day event, they're in the legislation, they're allowed to do that once, and they would not be charged a fee from council or be required to register. So you can actually, like for instance, fundraising, you can do that up to 20 times a year free of charge. So as soon as you become, I guess, a food business as such, then you are required to be registered. So if someone was at an event, and I'll give an example, we had the Matariki event here in Mangawhai, and they were going to operate once, they're actually able to do that free of charge. They're not charged for that. And they still need to produce safe food, of course, and they'll get guidance from the council, but they wouldn't be charged.
So it's the safe food that they had to complete that was just a hassle.
A form, but that's more for us to collect information about how they're keeping the food safe. It's not a form to charge. And often what we'll do is we'll ask them to fill in the form, and then we'll contact them and ask them about, and give guidance basically on how to manage food safety. So there's not, an event where a whole lot of people become sick. So they're not charged. They're still supported in terms of food safety and education, but they're not charged for that. But we would ask them to fill out a form. Does that?
They have to fill out the form.
Do they have to legally? No, but it's helpful if they do.
Okay, councillor Nair.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions. One is on page 215 on funding splits.
Yes.
And there's a listing of the financing policy and then actual and, but how come two categories, flood protection and land drainage, and the water treatment and supply and pension housing, three of them, they are listed as private percent or not public? How are they privately funded?
Privately funded, that would be through a top up through the rates. I'll just ask Jessie to.
Is it called public funding or private funding if it's through the rates?
So the pension and housing will be funded.
Sorry?
In regards to pension and housing. What was your other question, sorry, councillor?
Well, the three items you said pension housing, you mentioned water treatment and supply. I wonder how come it's private funding, and flood protection, land drainage is.
So water supply is paid for by cubic metre based on user pays.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Just one question, the $400 fee, page 2330 for the rubbish and littering. Have you ever collected it on the road?
Sorry?
$400 fee for littering, which is nationwide, I think.
Right.
Have we ever been able to collect it? I mean, there is a fee, but have we actually collected?
I'll ask George Lewis to respond to that. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you all. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so there is a general fee of $400 if you litter the road or street.
Yes.
Like in most countries. Have in Kaipara we ever been able to collect even once that $400 fee?
The $400 fee it's coming through an infringement process.
Yeah.
So the infringement process is we issue an infringement based on evidence that is provided, of course. It follows through the proceedings process, which is the same as a traffic infringement, which runs for a 28-day period where the person who receives that infringement has that opportunity to pay that infringement directly to the council. They'll get a reminder notice from the 28-day period if they fail to do that. And if after those two 28-day periods, which the second one is a reminder period, we will then send that for that these becomes a port and trade fine or Ministry of Justice for the security as a port and trade fine. Unfortunately, we have to pay $30 as a fee for the Ministry of Justice to process that infringement for us.
Chair, my question is, have we ever issued an infringement notice?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Larson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just a little confused about this handout. And you'll see there's got here it says original page 20. Supplementary road signs.
Through the chair, when this was attached to the agenda,
yes,
since made some reviewed the wording.
Right.
So it's mainly wording changes just to make it clearer. There was a thorough analysis of the roading charges having just come back into council from NTA this round, and yeah, there's a lot of work done.
So just to be clear, the document that's in the agenda is that the draft fees and charges document, because it's different the current document in some of its wording, like the 2024-25 document doesn't talk about supplementary road sign.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
our new proposal.
It's the new document, and then the red changes are further changes that have been made. A couple of things that I noticed were with a moment while I find it. With the fee for a new road sign, the fee is now $440 proposed to go to $507. That includes the pole.
I'll ask Susie Jefferson, who set the fees, to through the chair, to come up and explain that fee.
Just when I look at the old version, the current version, the wording is quite different. It says road sign $140.
Yeah.
What is the difference between the intention of that and the intention of the new document?
The new value has come purely from the cost from Downer, who are carrying out the work to do that.
Yes. And so what happens in the situation here, I mean, fees and charges are supposed to be fair and reasonable. What happens in the situation where you have two road signs that are mounted on one pole? So they charge $880, but they only have to install one pole, and they only have to buy one pole. I imagine the majority of the cost is the manufacturing of the sign.
Yeah, I think a new road
It is an anomaly that arises, that's all,
It is an anomaly, what, sorry?
that arises, whereby you have two signs attached to one.
You could probably charge that out at the supplementary road sign. So the supplementary road signs are attached to other signs. So when you see small things like a no exit sign that slots into the blade of a street sign, that's what a supplementary road sign is.
That's not what I mean. I mean where you have two road signs that are attached to one pole. So one pole is supplied and one pole is installed with two signs attached.
So you must admit,
Residential roads.
I think it would be quite difficult to get into that detail right now. So that's
right. I'm just raising it. It could be looked into.
Yeah.
It's like a domestic street road sign. You're saying something else could be attached to it, yeah?
I'm saying that two roads signs can be attached to one pole.
Ah, I see, yeah.
We can,
Okay.
come back.
I also,
Two blades.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd also like, you won't know now, but I'd also like to understand some of these administration charges where you've got, the charge per hour for administration, which was $114 per hour, going up to $117 an hour in terms of the salary and overhead cost of an administrator.
Yeah, so we've got backup documents.
Got that? Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
interesting to see that, yeah.
Yeah, I would. So we've got the whole roading team laid out and cost in there.
Okay.
And allocations for direct overheads as well. And we're not loading those with the full corporate costs for roading, which is about 36% of total $10 million cost. So roading gets 36% of that. We're only loading 15.8% of the corporate cost into the rates because that is based on a staff allocation rather than a budget allocation.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have moderated the rates and roading that, otherwise they would be, the rates would be in excess of $10 if we fully loaded the rate. We've done something that we think is reasonable in there. I think definitely share that.
Great, thanks very much.
Right, any further questions? Thank you very much.
I've got one point to raise, and it's to do with the temporary road closures for events. So previously this was $621. When the roading team went through this with their rates and we checked how much time it takes for each staff member to do these tasks, you can see that some of these costs actually are going down. And the temporary road closure, in the old form it's $621, but in here it's $1,994, which is a huge jump. And I just want to make it clear that I'm not proposing that we do that, but I'm reflecting in this form that is actually what it costs. But you may want to consider, that having an event where a road is closed actually has lots of benefits and financial benefits for the economy, local economies, and it brings people into the community. So, if this is a prohibitive amount of money to pay up, it's certainly an option to keep that down, given the broader benefits of running an event where a road needs to be closed. But that is the cost. That is the cost there, but you may not want to put it up that much.
Do you believe that there's an opportunity to streamline that and make it an easier process? A template that works for everybody, for example?
We went through it quite extensively and it's like, that is the cost. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Williams, Councillor Panmure and Councillor Lambert.
Yeah, my suggestion around that, and I got examples, is the Kaiwi Lakes Triathlon that happens year in, year out and has happened for the past 2 to 3 decades. They're obviously very aware of the requirements and so forth. So I wonder if we could have a issue of one is at that sort of level that you've indicated it is at, and then subsequent applications, move into the lesser amount, because I feel like you're probably on average you're spending more time with the ones such as the rally that came to Dover, which was a new one. Not our other one that we have. But the Kaiwi Lakes one would be I would think, pretty streamlined now.
There is a clause at the bottom of those fees for that, where it says, fee may be reduced for charitable events at council's discretion.
Yeah.
We certainly encourage.
But we start saying council's discretion, it depends who you get on the day and.
I don't think
it was here around it, whereas
I think there's a lot of support.
A new applicant and an applicant who is an existing one who has previously paid the proper amount, and then they get that reduced amount. And because what is charitable? We could have sit here all day and try and decide what is charitable and what isn't.
I think the definitions of charitable are described by the charities organisation.
So someone who has a charitable status under the has
not necessarily a status.
Exactly.
Not necessarily a status.
You have
they are defined by charities as charitable. I think it's just is it a commercial event where people are making money?
Can you just go one at a time, please? Can you answer the question without interruption? Yeah, carry on.
Sorry?
Carry on, sorry. You're being talked over. I just said one person talking at a time, so you can carry on. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've said what I need to say. Is there a further question?
I'm just noting that it's not as straightforward as you think it might be to determine what is and what isn't. When we have organisations that don't come under an umbrella organisation that has charitable status, we have ones that are clearly charitable organisations that don't have them, and then we have some that do a bit of commercial stuff, a bit of non-commercial stuff, but they might have. Then we're having to get. I mean, who's going to sit there and have the expertise to decide who gets in and who doesn't? I just think
there's a dialogue.
Dialogue
that happens with the community team as well. I think the leniency for making those fees free of charge or minimal is quite generous. I don't think it's a tie.
Really like that, giving discretion on fees to.
It needs to be some discretion because you need to organise. People need to understand whether it is totally charitable or partially charitable or whatever. So I think that discretion needs to be there. Councillor Williams.
Just following on from that, thank you. So it says fee may be reduced for charitable events at the council's discretion. When you say the council's discretion, that's staff, not the elected members. Is that what you mean? I just wondered if there is room in there when we have these road closure come to us, because we have to make a council decision. Is it in there then that we could actually be asked the question, or to even just debate around, you know, what the charge should be perhaps for each one that comes to us?
Might refer that to CE Maris. What's your thinking on that?
It's a charitable event where we do a road closure.
Yeah, so
just one at a time, please.
Can I just ask? I'm not aware. Was a statement in the last fees and charges as well, or was this a new statement? It was. Okay, so we've actually go through this process already, and there hasn't been an issue. What I would also say is the community team do work with community groups as well, and do provide funding to help support events in this space. And we have funding across the district to allow that to occur. I'm mindful we're not creating a mountain out of a molehill here. There's no real change. The question's been asked about the increase from 621 to 1994, and whether or not you think that's reasonable, given what you know of the events that are occurring, and that is the actual cost to the council. So if you're happy with that, we can put it out for consultation.
Yeah, well, that's reflective of the cost. It's going to be very contentious now that there's such a massive increase to want to come within the charitable definition. That's all I'm saying. It hasn't really been a thing because the fee's been pretty low. But I would say that 9 times out of 10, it's a charitable event. Yeah, we're cutting our nose off to spite our face.
Councillor Panier and Councillor Williams' questions are pertinent, and I think that, when that comes before us, we'll be looking at the discretionary side of it. So that can carry on at a later date. Thank you.
The rally, apparently, this car rally, and it's clearly commercial. people are paying to get
No.
here and it's making money out of the deal.
No one's making money.
So if I can just,
Sponsorship and.
Hang on, stop over talking, please, Cap.
we'll just bring it back. I mean, the question is in front of you. We'll go to consultation as it is, get feedback from community, and we can discuss this when it comes back as part of the deliberation side of things.
I think the general concern there is we don't want events and good things happening that don't happen because of the cost. So that there is a genuine concern there from members. Councillor Lambert?
No, I've given up.
Okay. Councillor Naya?
When was the $600 set up? It's going 3 times higher. I'm just looking at inflation rate. The big jump and how far back?
Are you from this, you're talking about the 621 to 1994? It's just reflecting of the actual cost to council.
No, there was 600 was set up
Don't know.
100 years ago?
We do this every year, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. I appreciate it. Okay, next on our list is project delivery, introduction to the Project Management Office, PMO.
Thanks, Joy. And team. Yes, Mayor. So while the team are coming up to join us, just want to set the scene here as well. So we're just going to go through a bit of a presentation from Ellie and Kim here to explain the PMO to you and about project delivery. It'll travel you through a little bit of history, plus what we've done last year and where we are now. The goal is just to inform you better about our project delivery and what we do in that space. And that's pretty much the summation of what the team are going to go through. So I'll hand over to Kim now.
Thanks, Jason. So yep, Jason's covered the context of this presentation. We've got some clear direction from the elected members that there's concern around capital delivery at KDC and the oversight across some of our projects. And so this item really is to give a bit more of an oversight of the wider context of project delivery and the additional teams that go into supporting and overseeing the delivery of those. So in 2013, off the back of the Mangawhai wastewater project, the Auditor General's Office came in and audited all of KDC's project delivery and identified that we were lacking in quite a few areas, including project governance, management, and record keeping. So as a result, we started picking some of those project delivery templates up and having some processes in place. However, in 2018, the Auditor General's Office came back to Mangawhai here to check in with us and to see how we were doing and the improvements that we've made. And they indicated that there were still insufficient improvements and directed KDC to establish a project management office, which we call the PMO because it's too much to say often and repeated in this presentation. So as a result, Louise Miller at the time restructured and established the PMO in the KDC structure. And we began a trial or a pilot process of the PMO by bringing large strategic projects through PMO processes, which means that they must use all templates, complete all deliverables, be saving their documentation in a central location, and to have good governance and stage gating across them. So when the PMO was stood up, we did an internal audit of our projects to be able to understand where they were at. And what we found was it was very hard to get that umbrella view. So within each team or this, Three Waters or property or libraries, they were delivering their own projects in their own team, in their own way, with their own templates. And so we found that it was really difficult for us to then be able to identify any linkages or dependencies between projects. So roading might not be aware of a waters project going on. We found that project information was not centralised and not compliant. So it was being saved in people's personal folders. If anyone came in to audit a project, we would need to involve dozens of people to be able to get information. Reporting was really ad hoc. It was inconsistent across the business. So we knew that some of the infrastructure projects, major infrastructure projects in the Mangawhai Community Plan, which was a program of work, was doing well, but other projects were sometimes doing it, sometimes were not. And we had really limited resources in the project space. So a lot of technical experts, so engineers, were being shoulder tapped to deliver projects. We also weren't able to demonstrate to our stakeholders what we were doing, when and how much things were costing, and we weren't able to demonstrate our risk and issue management. So we didn't have, we had a KDC-wide risk register, but we didn't have project-specific risk registers that we were managing. So you'll know that we've recently had a restructure, and part of that restructure was to support some of the elements that the Auditor General indicated. And so that siloed delivery approach that we had was managed. And you'll see there, this is just a proposed organisational chart because I couldn't for the life of me find the final one. But you'll see there, this is the strategic improvement team, which is my team. There's a lot of new boxes on there. So we created a lot of roles to try and align project delivery with the teams that it really works on. So we established the manager project delivery role. So that's Brian Hagan, who you all know, to be able to bring the entire capital works program together and bring all the project managers together, and then be able to align work into programs of work and look for opportunities for procurement. We also established a manager of asset management. So asset management and our as-builts were not something that was a key focus. And so business cases were rolling off and falling into the laps of no one. And then when projects were being completed, those assets weren't going to a centralised location either. So now by having that team in place and aligned with project delivery, that chain rolls much, much more efficiently. And then we aligned the PMO with both of those teams. So the project management office usually always sat out on its own, completely separate from the rest of the business. So it is fully cross-functional and works across every single team. By aligning the PMO with asset management and project delivery, we then created relationships between those team managers, and also consistency of how we expected things to be delivered. The best thing about where the PMO sits now is that it's also aligned with our long-term plan, annual plan, strategic planning and community engagement teams, which means that what the community wants and what we're talking about through the annual plan and long-term process in the environment gets directly communicated back into the PMO and back into the project delivery team. And then finally, in this restructure, I want to touch on the fact that we now have a strategic planning and reporting analyst, which is chef's kiss to me, because that overarching umbrella view is just impossible if you don't have someone with the skills to be able to pull together and report on it properly. So I'll now hand over Jennings, who's the manager of the PMO, to talk about the role of the PMO and the services provided.
Thank you, Hayley. So as you've heard from Hayley, the PMO was implemented to serve as a central hub for project oversight, internal governance and support, ensuring that projects are effectively executed and aligned with business objectives. So our role is to provide training, guidance, practices, templates and tools consistently and efficiently to create consistency and efficiency in project delivery and governance practices. So our overarching purpose is to improve success rates and cost, time and risk management, providing better outcomes for our communities. And we also provide a global view for our internal governance members to support sound decisions, ensuring information flow is efficient, accessible and of good quality, and also importantly that escalations can happen in a timely manner where needed. So a little reflection backwards. In August 2023 is when I joined council and undertook a comprehensive review of the effectiveness of the PMO at that stage. So I would like to note here that prior to my arrival, successive recruitment plans failed to secure a lead for the PMO, and the position had been vacant for a period of 12 months. I needed to get a handle really quickly on where the PMO was at. So the review aimed to identify successes, challenges and opportunities, assess the effectiveness of the delivery methodologies and the governance frameworks introduced. It identified 40 improvement actions ranging from low to high, which we scaled against impact and severity, and then created a change management action plan to address these issues. To date, we've resolved 36 of the 40 initially identified, and I'll take you through some of those now. So what we found is that governance frameworks and practices were in bed. Following the review, we identified an opportunity to consolidate 5 steering groups down to 2, creating efficiencies in time and practice within the organisation. We also initiated an internal culture change, which ensured the project sponsor and business owners' roles and responsibilities were better understood, and a clearer contribution is made from these stakeholders now throughout the life cycle. There was a project methodology in place, but we did receive feedback that the methodology was difficult to follow, so we've introduced new project delivery pathways as a result, and we've also increased our training collateral and delivered multiple training workshops to our delivery team. Standardised terminology and deliverables existed. These are constantly under review, and we've made a multitude of improvements to our templates and document storage requirements, which has seen a real positive shift in compliance. We've also introduced a simple but effective naming conventions across all projects to ensure elected members, staff and our community understand from the project name the work that we're looking to deliver, where it's happening, and with the inclusion of a works descriptor so they know, what you've set for us. Common support tools have been delivered, and the introduction of a project hub has created a central repository for project information, meaning quicker access to anyone that needs it. The rollout of the program portfolio management system meant regular status reports on large projects could be achieved with ease and consistency, and Template Central has increased the range of support tools on offer to our project managers and internal governance members. So while a good foundation was set and it was clear that the PMO had introduced some improvements, there was still a significant amount of work to do, which we've been working on diligently over the last 12 months.
I'm just going to jump in here and indicate that since the PMO was a piloted piece of work and it was taking about a dozen projects through a year, we've now got about 42 projects going through the PMO that have been identified as large, significant strategic projects. And then the rest that aren't roading, so that's about 81 small and medium projects, have clear oversight from general manager level through to tier 3 managers and business owners. So there's no longer this, no one owns a project and there's no oversight across projects. Since the 1st of July, we've moved all of that capital delivery in.
Thank you. So looking at our opportunities, a big issue affecting both the PMO and project delivery at this time when we conducted the review was staff retention. So we can do all the planning that we like, but without the staff, we simply can't deliver the program. So the PMO had been unstaffed for 12 months, as I said, from June 2022 to August 2023, and the roll-on effects of this have been many and varied. Many of the projects that are off course right now, I can confidently say were initiated just before or during this period, and have suffered from the lack of ongoing oversight and internal governance during this time. So the project delivery team was also down to 3 internal staff, a team lead, 1 project manager and a coordinator, with 137 projects at various stages of delivery on the books. The global view of the program had not been fully achieved. It had been part of the PMO's remit since the pilot was initiated 4 years prior, and due to the siloed approach of the project delivery embedded by our previous structure. So following the July 2024 restructure and the creation of the reporting and planning analyst, we delivered this critical view in just under 3 months. This has enabled us to introduce strengthened workforce planning practices, which was a significant gap across the program, with clearer accountability for delivery. A next step for us is to utilise this view to create future delivery efficiencies across the program. So where we have 3 projects in one area, we can identify early, package the procurement, get a contractor out there to do the work and move out again, causing less disruption to the community and improve time, cost and risk management benefits. Within the governance practices, we did not have a robust process for classification or sizing of projects. So that then defines the delivery process. So it's really important that we right-size the requirements for small projects versus large projects. We don't want the same level of documentation. We need to speed up that delivery. So we've developed a risk-based weighted matrix to undertake this exercise once a year, which has added strength and integrity to that process. Stage gate reviews are well documented in the new pathways, and we've delivered training to the project delivery team to ensure they understand what is required. And although good support tools were introduced, another gaping gap was that our external project managers could not access any of our systems, which presented a risk in terms of meeting our requirements under the Public Records Act. And it led to them having to send additional work to our internal delivery team to complete on their behalf. This created rework, job dissatisfaction, and ultimately further resignations. So this had been a long-standing issue again for 4 years, and we solved this by getting external access sorted in 3 weeks. As mentioned, we've strengthened the governance framework process and improved our project delivery methodology by introducing new pathways for large, medium and small projects. We've also introduced a project initiation workshop, which brings together a cross-functional group of stakeholders to gain an early understanding of the program. And this also allows us to conduct some early workforce planning, risk identification and mitigation. In terms of organisation, capability and training, which is another part of the review, we've significantly boosted our training material, refreshed our induction process. Understanding this was a key gap, also leading to poor performance. We've also onboarded a really well-balanced project delivery team in the last 1.5 years with a range of skills and capabilities that the organisation was lacking. And we've been very intentional about that. It was an important piece of the puzzle. With the introduction of the reporting analyst, as Hayley's mentioned, we'll be able to better deliver and analyse project performance going forward. Simply having the PMO staffed helps to ensure key requirements are met by the delivery team. And we're also delivering post-implementation reviews, identifying key learnings and working with the steering group members and the project delivery team to address these gaps when they occur. We identified that procurement processes were creating an unnecessary lag in our delivery timeframes, and we supported the procurement team to reduce this through the delegation updates in late 2024. Having a better view of the roading program creates further opportunity for us to package projects for delivery. And with the changes we've implemented to date, we've received positive feedback from across the business, our external project managers, community members, and our contractors. So one contractor commenting, he's not sure what's happened in the past 12 months compared to the last 5 years delivering projects for council. It's like a different organisation. I'll hand back to Hayley to talk about what we mean by internal project governance.
Yeah, so we've been about the word governance a lot, and I'm aware that within local government, there's a lot of levels of governance. So when we're talking about governance in the project space, we're talking about project governance. And when we first set up the PMO, what we found was we had a lot of operational governance that was managing project delivery. So if you were a general manager of infrastructure, then you would be managing the delivery of parks, roading, waters, any projects just on your own. What we did was we moved away from that model into the PMO model, where we created an entirely project-focused governance group. And that made sure that we were aligning our projects to the strategic objectives that you set. So vibrant communities, healthy environments, dependable roading. That governance group meets monthly to make sure that projects are in line with what they said they were going to do in their business case and project execution plan. Are they on time, within scope, and are they on budget? Any risks are being able to be escalated to all the general managers that are in the steering group rather than just going to your direct line manager. So we have early intervention and risk mitigation. And it means that we are asking our project managers to provide monthly reporting and procurement documentation to allow us with that project stage gating. So are we happy that your planning is sufficient? Have you created a good, robust project execution plan? Yes, we approve. We allow you to move on to detailed design. Have you got a great design? Yes, I do. approved, you can move on to the tender procurement process. So it has a clear approval point for project managers, which really is driving consistency through delivery and highlighting quickly where we need resources.
So this is our internal governance model, which, as I said, we simplified quite a lot, from 5 steering groups down to 2. Each group operates under an agreed terms of reference, and the portfolio oversight group is responsible for the approval of projects at conception, ensuring that strategic alignment to council's goals. They also approve the classification of projects and determine the project governance level and delivery pathway. Next level down, our program steering group allows our general managers, as Hayley said, to monitor the progress with a cross-functional approach, so there's no surprises and we're all informed. They're looking at large projects, commonly high risk, high cost, high interest. Status reports are presented monthly, for stage gate approvals, any variation decisions, or to highlight risks and issues quickly so we can get decisions and help them to move on and move forward with their delivery. The meetings are also attended by sponsors and business owners, and then the PMO underpins that, supporting and implementing the governance model by providing the tools, systems, processes, methodologies that keep the flow going, and providing a bit of accountability, checking on what Brian's up to. What you see here is our project life cycle, so it's just a high level at the project governance approval points or stage gates that Hayley was talking to you about. And these are what our project managers work through, each star representing an internal approval point. Depending on the classification, approval is given at each stage, either by a steering group or by a project sponsor. So if it's a small or medium, it doesn't come up to that larger steering group because we should be able to just move a lot quicker on it. Next steps. So we are developing reporting, which we look forward to delivering to council monthly alongside project delivery team, covering project progress, key risks, issues and successes. The introduction of planned point of entry improvements will increase our ability to deliver quicker and protect the program from impacts of staff turnover, which we've also, needed to do some work on. We do have a philosophy of continuous improvement, which I hope you've seen today, driven by council's vision of Kaipara the place to be. And we are growing in confidence that after a period of consolidation, following a high impact restructure and what's been a comprehensive change program over the last 12 months, council and our communities will start to see more projects delivered on time, within costs and within scope. However, we do need time for those changes to be fully in bed. And that's really our update. Any questions?
Cool. Well, I had one question, and that was, will you report back to us monthly? So you will, and we'll get away with terrific reports we usually see that tell us nothing. That's awesome. Second,
the Downer roading update.
Very cool, because I was just going to say, can we get it ahead of time, similar to our road update? Then we can actually engage a little bit more better. Second question that I had was when I would love to see a line item in the budget, so that we can get a picture of how much time each project manager is supposed to be spending on each project, so that we can factor that in, because I can see some projects requiring a lot of staff time and that not being a line item in the budget when we agree to it, and then it's actually more than what we're agreeing to and could change the decision. And finally, how many FTEs are expected with our current projects that are in the pipeline?
FTE to deliver as in project managers, or FTE to deliver across council? Because we have
with all of our projects, so specifically for the projects, because there'll be a distinction, won't there, between projects internal and external, and what's going on with our project manager, whether it be voting or what have you.
Yeah.
How many projected FTEs for our current projects too, and I suppose you're looking at how many you're going to require for us to meet the deadlines and the timeframes we've essentially agreed and promised our ratepayers that to turn that around in our planning documents.
Councillor Penny, I can ask, so you're essentially asking the resourcing required to deliver these projects, right?
Yeah, under the,
we have a very finite number of project managers. We've got 3, but we literally have 1 vacancy, maybe 2.
We have 2 vacancies currently.
Vacancies at the moment. So
Particularly for this
project delivery.
Project delivery.
When you're talking about the project management office?
Yes.
Oh, PMO. Yeah.
So the project management office is, it sits within my team, but I've also got a number of other teams that sit within my team as well. So essentially I'm the oversight for that. And we have the equivalent of 1 FTE in the admin space and then the new reporting and planning analyst. So 2 FTE.
So we're talking about it as an office, but it's really just 1.
3.
Big management.
Well, yeah, there's a percentage role for Kim and then two roles, yeah.
Yeah.
So 1 admin, 1 actual.
2 part-time roles make up 1 FTE. And then we've got the planning and reporting analysts, but we work cross-functionally to deliver the program and support with our project delivery team and the operations team, our asset management team.
They the same, so these 2 part-time people, are they, because this is what happens all the time. You say on paper they're 50%, and then they're off doing other things for 70% of the time. Are these
not in this case?
So they're not cross-referencing jobs in other departments or other?
Not in this case.
Okay.
So what I would say, sorry, Mr. Mayor, apologies. With regard to resourcing in our project manager, project delivery team with Brian leading, there is an absolute element to use project managers that aren't council staff as well. And so many of our projects will require that because we do only have 2 vacancies. So.
And we're not paying
resources,
right? We're not.
We are paying project managers to do that work, yeah.
At consultant rates, not at employee rates.
We pay our employees on a salary within our salary structure, and then our consultants, that we pay them on the rate that they.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but the project manager that all these 2 part-timers that we've got, are you saying that they don't work for council?
Sorry, the 2 part-timers we've got are PMO coordinators. We have 3 full-time project managers working for KDC, but 2 of those have just become vacancies.
So for us to deliver the six in total.
Wrap my head around what we've got for our projects.
Yep.
I know that there's other stuff going on because we want to wrap these projects up. They just go on and on and on, and how long is a piece of string? And then they just don't get built, like the wharf, and we look stupid, and then same with the footpaths, we look stupid. Not because of our own, because external factors happen and funding gets pulled, but we never wanted it to begin with. I'm saying, and then it got pulled.
Yeah.
The workforce planning is a big part of what we need to get right to get the program delivered. And as I mentioned, staff retention is an important. Having training that we can deliver quickly when we onboard new external project managers or new project managers is also a really important part of that piece, because we need to get them up to speed and delivering.
Also, they will be employees, these 2.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Mailing our documentation as well, so that when people come on board, they can pick up where the project left off, rather than having to investigate, find out, pick up zones, see what runs out, and then come to council and face that.
Yeah. Through the chair, we know that transitioning project managers in and out of projects impacts the success rate. So as to Hayley's point, it's really important that we have those full and complete records. So it's very easy to transition that project, because it does happen and we won't be able to fully eliminate that no matter what we do.
Sorry, one last question. So in your little planning and then design, and if you go back to that execution, at what point when it flows out of the budget do you revert back to governance escalation and your new?
So through the chair, at any stage in that project life cycle, we can go straight to governance, and that's why it's important to have those monthly meetings to make sure that the project delivery team isn't waiting for a decision. So we have that regular cadence to make sure that those issues don't sit around. They can also go to the project sponsor directly. They don't have to wait for that weekly meeting, but it just ensures internal alignment and we're on the same page.
Cool, and we'll now know who the buck stops on. Thank you. That's all my questions.
Okay, there's, sorry, I'll have councillor Lambeth and then councillor Nair.
Thank you, through the mayor. I probably don't need to ask this question, but a more professional template and the like, are you finding now you're getting more professional people coming forward and a more professional project? Is it success breeding success?
Yeah, through the chair, absolutely. We actually had an external project manager say to us in the last couple of weeks that out of all of the councils, we are the easiest council to deal with in terms of the templates and governance we have in place.
And are you finding that they're coming first now to you for projects?
Well, that was a really positive, probably one of the most positive feedback we could get, because we want those people to come in, transition quickly into our processes and be able to deliver, understand it, and again, get on with the job. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
More backyard deals and right, nothing like that at all.
Yeah, through the chair, as I said, we've still got work to do. I'm not here saying we're perfect at the moment, but we're certainly on that journey of continuous improvement.
Councillor Nair.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, by the sound of it, it's a good initiative, considering the fact that we have so many capital projects in the balance, hanging in the balance. So this whole thing is done by a consultant, I guess, this presentation, or?
No, this is done by Kim and I.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It looked very professional. My question is more related to the powers. So in terms of execution, in terms of prioritizing out of 50 projects, which one to go first, you don't have that discretion. That will stay with the governance. So that's one challenge, I guess, you have to face. Because if you take priority of a project, which can be in the back, but we want it in the front, so the other projects will start. So that's the kind of balancing act. How are you going to do that?
So through the chair, there's a couple of pieces there, because we have our asset management team who are monitoring and maintaining the performance of our assets and the age of our assets. So if our asset management team think that the replacement or the repair of a pipeline or a drain is a high priority, then that will be fed in. But Kim talked before about our weighted matrix that we put across all of our projects. And so we'll have, elected member priority, community priority, asset care priority, cost, risk, all of those elements will go in and score that project to be a certain priority. And when we communicate that, we communicate at the start of the year to the wider business so that they all understand and can clearly see the priority scores for those projects.
What I would add to that, councillor Nair, is all of this is set up through the LTP, first and foremost. And the projects are included in the LTP, and then they're drilled down into the annual plan, and that's where the governance set the priorities for the year, and we run that framework.
And through the chair, aspirationally, we want to be able to report in future an internal prioritisation from staff that council can then reset, based on your strategic priorities. But we want to give you more direction. Yes. Clearer guidance from a technical perspective that this is where staff see it, but as Jason said, through the LTP you can reposition that, based on your strategic priorities, and staff will act on that.
Very good.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Williams.
Not a question, but I just wanted to say, I think this is really a great positive step, and I can see that this will hopefully work really well and everything will be tightened up. So thank you for your presentation.
We're very conscious that you see maybe 4 projects that are at risk rather than the wider 120 odd that we're looking after and managing on time, on budget within scope.
That oversight would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next on the agenda is item 7, Mangawhai Coastal Walkways Improvement, Dennis McCarthy and Nick Bennett.
Thank you. I'm actually on that declaration sheet. Actually, Vice President. Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
Thanks, team. Welcome. I'll just while the mayor's out of the seat, I'll get you to start. If members have any questions, I'll go for it. So.
Okay.
No problem. I take it that the report has been read, and I'll just briefly take you through the report. The Bree Street Walkway, which is what we've called the Mangawhai Coastal Walkways Improvement Project, we are requiring some additional funding to be able to complete this project. This walkway is a very popular walkway. It was originally built by a community group. In 2019 and 2020, the PDC installed a new stormwater pipeline collecting stormwater runoff from the Whale Way area, and it discharged into the Bree Street Reserve. In 2020, we moved forward a little bit more in time. There was a feasibility report that looked and identified that this Bree Street walkway is one of the high priority areas. It's, like I said, very popular, and the council commissioned a concept plan for a new walkway at the Bree Street Reserve. And then jumping forward a couple more years, in 2022, a local community planting and weed control group received some funding to do some planting program in the reserve. However, this couldn't actually be completed because of the damage that had been created in the area. So if I move the area again a little bit forward more in time, we came back and we re-looked at this area in 2024. Actually, at this point, I'll pass this over to Brian.
Thank you, Glynis. Through the chair, the basic scope for this project is to stabilise the bank surrounding the walkway and on the beach frontage and the bank leading up to adjacent to the pathway. Also to replace a retaining wall that was constructed by the Trackies, the community group. To be fair, it's probably a little bit more like a garden wall than a retaining wall. So it's going to be replaced with an engineered solution. And construction of the stairs down to the beach, which will eliminate the hazardous area of the walkway, which is needed to be closed late last year due to the fact it was quite dangerous. There was about a 6 or 7 metre drop off. The beach had no handrail, so we installed a temporary handrail, and due to a little bit of push from the community, we agreed to open it again during the summer period. But that areas of hazard need to be resolved. So the bank stabilisation will include anchors and geogrid fabric to the bank facing the beach area, so the extreme exposed area will be reinforced in that way, and the stairs will eliminate, as I said, the dangerous area of the path along the top of that cliff down to the beach itself.
Any questions? Councillor Larson, followed by Councillor Paniora.
Yeah, hey, thanks for that presentation. The construction / physical works item, which is the lion's share of this budget. And the primary part of the building of the skiers down there, would that be right?
That would be the major cost, the retaining wall. I haven't got a breakdown of the different elements, but certainly the stairs would be the lion's share of the cost.
So in coming up with the $294,000, if you haven't got a breakdown of the elements, how would you come up with that figure?
That's an engineer's estimate through the project management company that's looking after the project.
They would have those details, though, sure.
Yes.
Could we get that? I'm interested to see why it's costing so much. Sure. Thank you very much.
So yeah, similar questions. Has the geotechnical assessment already been carried out? Is that what's fed into the construction estimate?
Yes, I believe so, yeah.
So there's already a report. This is what's required.
The engineered design, so the design of the walkway that you see in the report is based on that geotech investigation, correct?
Yeah, I'm just going to be really open and frank with this one. I have huge concerns around why we would be taking over exposure of this walkway that's been constructed by the community. There's legal implications for slips once we take over like the ownership and the responsibility of it. And I wonder if we've already set some funding aside whether we can assist with the pre-works funds, and then this community group that's constructed this goes off and finds funding to undertake the actual physical work so that we don't have any liability. I'm extremely, like, have we had a legal opinion around this? Because my understanding was that once you do any works on slips, and if it slips onto another property, you're then legally responsible if you haven't put retaining walls in, and if you have put in retaining walls and then they cause slips, then again you're responsible. Gosh, there's, yeah, I mean, have we got any, I guess the question is, have we taken a legal opinion on what we're actually taking liability of for this walkway?
I don't believe there's been a legal opinion, but the aim of the project is to stabilise the bank, not to create any risks. So actually trying to.
Got a consenting cost of 9,000, which in my mind would. So what's the consenting cost of 9,000 then if it isn't council taking legal responsibility for?
We don't normally take legal advice for building consent.
So who, sorry, because we don't have any background reports, what's the consenting of 9,000 in relation to?
This fees and charges related to a building consent.
So we would be taking. So why can't this community group apply to our reserves contribution funds or some sort of grants similar to what we see occurring with other projects?
Can we just seek some clarification? I don't believe it was a community led thing that did the tracks. They were just doing the planting. Is that where the community has?
I'm here on the report and like.
It was a community group that put the track in originally.
Okay.
And then, in fact, council did provide some funding for them to do a smaller. No, we didn't. We did provide some funding for that community group to do a bit of remediation on that track. And subsequently, that track has further degraded, and it's at a point now where it shouldn't be going to a community group to manage. And
I thought it was, yeah, okay, so it started with a community group. So that aside, is this even a place where we should be putting a track through? We're in a district that's saying the most extreme weather events. It's the same issue out at Bailey's Beach. We continue to fight against te taiao and the environment. And is this, if we're going to put funding into a walk, the right walkway to put the funding into? Because it sounds like it's eroding, there's a continual erosion issue, which then means that once we take this on, we're then going to have to budget to put aside for the maintenance continually, year in, year out, and then depreciate on it. And then we're just getting ourselves into.
Chair, sorry, as part of the long-term program process, the Mangawhai Coastal Walkways Improvements was approved by council as a line item, and that was for us to go and investigate all the current status of those coastal walkways and connections, and look to upgrade them and improve their safety. So that's the scope of what that project work was for council. If now you don't want to improve that Breed Street track, we would need to go and significantly consult with the community and let them know that we'd have to close that track.
And like, let's have a look at this geotech assessment and some of these this paperwork, because.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, Councillor Paniora, look, your governance. If you want to deliver the project yourselves, you can come along and deliver the project. But your governance, you're going to give us clear direction here. We need funding for this to finish. The history is there.
It's required to give you some better direction. You're just giving us.
I've given you the information.
Willy-nilly.
Given you the information. I think it's quite clear what the cost is going to be in that table. At the end of the day, it's up to the council whether or not you want us to proceed and bring it to you to ask for additional funding for the project. It is, like Hayley said, a project in our LTP. There is a community expectation being set up there. It is a well-used track. Breed Street is a really popular track for people in Mangawhai. So it is one that is probably quite out there for the community, and we'd have to communicate significantly with the community if it wasn't to proceed.
Then we had it closed. It's not, sorry, it's not very clear because you haven't put, clearly in there, there's no maintenance.
Can you put your hand up when you want to ask the questions? I've got two people in front of you. I've got two people in front of you, Councillor Larson, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Your Worship. So could you just clarify the current budget that's been carried over, is that coming from general rate or from reserve contributions?
Rules.
And do you mean by financial contributions or reserve financial contributions?
I thought it was coming from the improvements budget, the
coastal walkway.
coastal walkway improvement.
But where does that get funded from? I think that's
Councillor Williams, you had a question?
Yeah, it was just to say in the report, it says the request for approval for an extra budget of 206,000 is to come from financial contributions reserves. So I take it that's coming from the Mangawhai reserves, or is this from the district reserves?
It's actually coming from the Mangawhai Reserve contributions.
So it is for our area, it is money that can be used in our area for these things.
Absolutely.
Hey, look, what I'd like to do here, if you don't mind, just so we can wrap this up and move on. I'd like to see the geotech report, and I'd like to have a site meeting with you to view it with councillors that want to come, just so we can understand what we're looking at. I know it pretty well, and I think when people see it, they'll understand the issue a lot more clearly. I actually did the work originally on the outfall at the top of that, and it's a very well-used track that connects a lot of streets. So, but you know, so we can make a decision we're happy with. If we could make it as soon as possible, arrange to have it on site, that'd be great. Okay, let's wrap this up and move on then. Thank you.
I just want to make a final point. So if the community in Dargaville, as a comparison, goes in the 8.8 to point B, all we have to do is come back to the council and they'll allocate 400,000. Upgrade it.
Through the chair, if a significant amount of community members raise these requests and concerns about the condition of a walkway, we would need to act.
That's why it's a good thing to go and have a look at it, because it's quite extensive. So look, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, we're going to move into public excluded. So we've got a bit of a weird afternoon, okay? So I'm just going to outline what was going on this afternoon. We're going to move into public excluded. We're going to bring forward under number to talk about the local waters done well. So that's what we're going to do next. Then at 3 o'clock, we'll do the other PEX items if we can before that, depending on how that goes. At 3 o'clock, you've got some external presenters arriving, which we need to be an open for, and that's the NRC to come and talk to us about the golden clam and the threat of vegetation loss at the Kaiwi Lake. So there's going to be an open, just so you know, but so when they arrive at 3 o'clock, we'll move back to an open for that, and then we'll conclude anything that's needed in PEX after that. So we'll just move into PEX now.